transport us to different worlds, expand our horizons, and ignite our imagination. I, Garima Mittal, SAS Women of Meerut, welcomes you to the Right Circle, the cross-country forum for wordsmith in English language and literature. We are particularly privileged to have Priya Hajela ji grace the occasion with her presence and give us the opportunity to listen to her in close quarters as she wakes through her experiences and reflections with today's moderator Anshu Mehra, fellow SAS Women of Meerut. Before the captivating Rendogur unrolls, let me take a few seconds to introduce to you Prabha Ketan Foundation. Prabha Ketan Foundation, a non-profitable trust based in Kolkata, was founded by an eminent illustrator and a cultural activist named Dr. Prabha Ketan in the early 1980s. It is also committed to promoting performing arts, culture, education, literature, gender equality, and women's empowerment through authors' meets, book launches, literature fest for veterans, and child authors, panel discussions, boutique festivals, and performance of singers, dancers, and theatre performers. Authors and artists connect with the English audience through these events under these various initiatives. We are overjoyed to share the three-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage, the mind behind the signature quality of Prabha Ketan Foundation, has created a 12 amazing musical pieces to score across the video invites of events and social media platforms. Introducing the music of the month, March Mahadev, a tribute to Lord Shiva, his might, strength, and benevolence. Today's session is in association with the Hotel Crystal Palace and the support of SAS Women of Meerut. The media partner for today's event is Dainik Jagran, and with the noble patronage of Sri Cement Limited. Now it's my utmost privilege to introduce today's author. Priya Hajela is a fiction writer who lives with her husband and two dogs. Writing is the second career for her. Prior to taking to writing, Priya worked in a variety of telecom and IT organizations in senior marketing and business development roles for 22 years. One of Priya's short stories, An Affair, was published in Indian Illuminations. A second short story, The Tattoo Artist, was published in Live Encounters. A third short story, Daughter's Revenge, recently appeared in Kitab. Ladies Taylor is her first book. And in today's conversation, we keenly wait to get many takeaways from you. The moderator for the evening is my dear friend Anshu Mehra, SAS Women of Meerut. Besides being a successful professional, she is an eager literature enthusiast. Without much delay, over to you. The old order changes, yielding place to new. With Priya ji, she had a successful corporate career for 22 years, more than 2 decades. And suddenly she decided to give it all up and fearlessly embark on this journey whereby she started writing. One fine day, she gave it all up and she embraced this change. So let's hear it from her. How did she come across making these changes in her life so that she could follow her heart and redefine her life? So, my first question to you. Let's start from the very beginning. Let's hear how your childhood was and what are you made of?
Okay. So I think that they say that what happens in your childhood stays with you forever. I mean, you can try to shake it off and move on, and more in most cases, in many cases, you do. But there are things that are difficult to shake off. And so my childhood, I was born in Ludhiana. And my mother, unfortunately, was bipolar. And I, of course, didn't know that when I was born. But very soon after I was born, she, and after my sister, I have a younger sister, after my sister was born, she lost her father, and I think she kind of spiraled very badly into mania. And again, not that anything that I was very familiar with, but she was kind of in and out of hospitals. She went through shock treatment, which I actually remember coming back from. And so I have very vivid memories of episodes and things when we were very young. But when I was 8 and my sister was 5, we were sent to boarding school. So I was in boarding school, and then my parents separated, and I still met my mother during holidays. She was staying with her mother, but it was, it became a very different relationship because my father got custody of the two of us, and then we were in boarding school right from for 9 years from there on. First in Auckland House in Simla. So I was there, so I know very well. And then it's in Himachal also. So right after I finished in Sana, we moved to the US, and that was also kind of on my behest, because I had become afraid of meeting with my mother and her issues. I just couldn't handle the, I didn't know what, you just didn't know what to expect, and while we were in school, we were kind of secluded and we were protected. But once we came out of school, there was nothing stopping her from, dropping in and so on. So we left her and we went to America. My father took us. I went to college in America. And then went to grad school. I met my husband at a party in the US. In the meantime, my mother she met somebody. She got married again, and she was living in Bareilly. And so things, but we were not. My sister and I were not in touch. But when I got married, in 1993 I got married, my sister actually went to Bareilly and visited her for the first time in 8-9 years. So this was, I didn't know. I didn't feel up to it. So and then so 93 we got married and we were in the US. My husband and I, we were living there, working there. And once my sister visited, we both started sending money, and with her husband more than with her. And we continued that until 2003 when he died. And at that point, I think both my sister and I were at a loss of, now what? Because nobody was prepared really to pitch in. She has family, but she has an older sister who really took care of her, but then she had died. And so it was quite complicated. So in 2003, after he passed away, my sister actually went to Bareilly 3 times in 3 months from the US because things were just not good. She wouldn't take her medication and it was really quite bad. I had both my children. My sister didn't have children then, so she was able to do this. But I said, we can't afford it. Nobody's helping us. My father didn't want anything to do with all this. So we were just kind of trying to figure out how we were going to help her. And so my husband and I, we moved to India. I got a job in Pune, and we moved to India because we couldn't do it from there. So we moved to India in 2004. And so I went around the country. I went to several places to see if there was a place where we could move her from Bareilly, where she would be taken care of in a way that I know was happening in the US, but I didn't know was available in India. So I did find a place in Bangalore. It's called Catacombs, and it's absolutely brilliant. So we moved her there. That is a whole other story, which I will not get into. But we did manage to move her there. She thrived. She did really well. I still couldn't. I paid for everything, but I could not visit or speak I arranged everything. I was there to get her to the place. But that was where it kind of stopped for me. I couldn't go any further than that. My sister visited every year. She came to India every year. She went to Bangalore. She went and spent several days with her, and I just paid for everything. So there was a time when I was working. I had a nice life. I had kids, a husband. We didn't have dogs then because the kids were young. And there was this thing always there at the back of my mind that there's something I am not doing that I should be doing. And I didn't know how to get into it, and I didn't know how to approach it. And so one thought I had, there was a point where we said, I don't need to work anymore because we don't need to, we don't need the income, or, I need to go back and do something else.
So maybe we can take that as the second question. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that sensitive bit so candidly with us. You had a successful corporate career. So where did this calling come from to do that creative writing course from Vermont?
So I think
2017.
Yeah, right there, actually, right there. Because I said, to my husband that, I can leave and I can do other things. I actually did start a small, like a training company, but before I even started it, I shut it. And I said, this is not what I want to do. What I want to do is, I want to explore this manic depressive illness. I want to understand it. And I can't go back and be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I don't have that ability. But I can be a writer. And I can explore it in that way. So the first thing I did was look into programs where I could, where I could get an MFA in creative writing, which would allow me to do that.
Master in Finance.
Master of
Finance.
Yeah, Master of Finance. So that was the impetus, that was like a calling that if I want to sort this thing in my head, then the only thing that I could think of was to write about it. So I did go back to school and I did a 2-year proper Master of Finance. And I wrote a story. That was my thesis. I wrote my mother's story.
So have you published?
No. No, I haven't published it. I don't know if I will. She passed away in 2020. Maybe, in a few years. But I haven't published it, but that was my thesis. And in the process of writing that, in order to write that, I read a lot about mental health. I read writings on mental health, fictional writings, and some memoirs, and some, it is, I think it's an eye-opener, when you read what people have gone through. My favorite is Jenny Willows and the Big Book, which I came across, and it just blew me away because we abandoned my mother. So I don't know what the real story is, and I met him and I spoke to him about this, and I told him that I have a story also, but I'm not ready to put it out there yet. So, but they stayed with her. He stayed with her. He took care of her through her life. It's an incredible story. I highly recommend. So that's where my
Jerry Bristow is from Pune.
Jerry Bristow is from Bombay. Yeah, he's from Bombay. Yeah. Yes, Mahinga Jerry, yes. On Instagram. Huh?
Somebody was in that and they go about such a serious situation, like so much
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
Voice.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. I have a lot to learn from him in this regard. I have a lot to learn from him on many fronts. But yeah, with regard to writing, understand. So he also took 10 years at least 10 years, maybe more, to write this book and to get it out. And he sat on it. And I think it started out as 8,000 pages or something. And he had to, he just wrote for 10 years. Because it's a feeling that you can't.
Probably cathartic.
Yes, exactly. So after I did that, is when I said, okay, now I'm going to write about other things that interest me, and set that aside for a while.
So you were at IBM, you were at Tech Mahindra, you were at Tata Communications, in all kinds of role in this corporate job, career. So the switch, how was it? Into creative writing, into the world of fiction, and these are such diverse careers.
Yeah.
So how do you get them together, and what is it that you get out of it that you continue? After such comfortable position to be at after more than 2 decades of work.
It's very difficult because there comes a predictability in your career after working for so long. You start out as a manager or junior, and you work your way up, and it takes those years. And at some point, you know what's going to happen next. You know where you're going. And the pyramid gets narrower, and so the jobs at the top are fewer, and there's a glass ceiling that women have to deal with. And so there's all of that, but still there is a level of predictability, objectiveness, and objectivity, which doesn't exist in the writing world. For one thing, it took me a long time to adjust to an empty mailbox. My email box used to be full at the end of it every day, and when I quit, yes, in my corporate career, and when I quit, nobody was interested in it. It's a lone, like you are alone. When you become a writer, it is absolutely, there's nobody's writing to you. I mean, Amazon will keep sending rubbish. But other than that, there are no, and when you're writing, when you're in the process of conceptualizing and writing, the urge is to do research, talk to people. Because of my corporate background, I'm like, I can set up some meetings with someone. I can schedule something because I'm so good at scheduling things. But the thing is, nobody can help you after a certain point. I went to, because partition 70th anniversary is around the time when I started writing the Sailor. And 75th is when it came out. I went to Oxford. Oxford had a partition, not workshop, it was like a 2-day event. Yeah, it was a 2-day event on partition. There were a lot of British old, people who were very young during partition, and those guys were attending, and there, of course, scholars and professors, and one lady has done a thesis on life after partition in Delhi at the university in the Netherlands. She had done something. So anyway, I did that. I went around and I scheduled and everything, but once you've done it, you can't keep doing that. You have to then sit down alone, and that adjustment is it's tough. It is really, really tough. But I think it's a matter of just sticking to it. And after a while, you don't miss it. You don't miss that, phone ringing and messages and emails and deliverables and due dates. You don't miss it because in writing, it's your own discipline. The thing that I can say is that because I've been in the corporate world, I'm very disciplined. So I sit down at my desk every day for at least 5 to 6 hours. I break for lunch, then I come back. Sometimes I take a nap, but I come back. But that discipline has really helped. I just don't. I can't. I feel like I'm being useless, I feel like I'm wasting my time if I don't do that. So, like, I can't just, argue with you.
So basically, this book, Ladies Tailor, which is your debut book, it is set in the partition times. My parents, both my parents are from erstwhile India, Lahore. So, what made you choose this setting? As I believe your grandparents have been through partition, so where did the inspiration come from, and why this particular setting? Why not something else?
So, there are two things that play in the book. One is partition itself and the history part. And the second one is this sort of get up and go, let's get going again. That spirit, so there's both of those things. So the history part was of interest to me because I wanted to understand what my grandparents had been through. And I don't know if, so in my case, there was very little conversation about partition. In my house, my grandmother would talk about her time when she was a young girl, and when they lived in Suko in village and all that. The actual experience of partition, she didn't want to talk about. And I noticed that, at the time that I started working on this book, that partition archives and things like that also started, people had to draw information out because that generation was dying and they wanted, we want to get their stories out, right? But people hesitated. And I kind of realized that part of the reason people are hesitating is because there was stuff they did or didn't do when they should have. And as well as stuff was done to them. And so it's kind of, there are those, and I'll talk about it, right? So there are those episodes which you don't really, you think that, we are the good people and they're the bad people, but there was no such thing in partition. Everybody had, either by commission or omission, done something that they should have done. Either they didn't help their neighbor when they should have, or, they actively set some people's house on fire because there was this thing that harass or, it was just like anger for, whatever reason, right? So that has happened it's just I think that that's one of the reasons that there was so little, people were not ready to talk. And my family did about it. So I said, let me understand it, let me see what happened, let me try to, and then of course I really wanted to get into, now you've lost everything, now how do you get up and start to talk? That, it's very important for me because I just think that it's something that I've always wanted to instill in my children, and I think that it's so important to keep going, just to keep going. Don't like settle into a comfort zone and just stay there. Just kind of, go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Because life has so much to offer. So I wanted to get that, capture that.
So I breezed through your book. I finished it in one day flat. So I recommend all of you do the same when we give you the complimentary copies. One thing I noticed was that you had very strong women characters. There was you, there was Simran, and was that intentional?
Always. Always. Yeah, I know. I hesitated making my main character a woman because I was, the story that I wanted to tell had, some logistical issues that I needed men for. So but I needed to have these women who was going to steer these men. Either, give them a slap on the face, figuratively, or, say, not this way, this way.
So should we clap for steer the men?
So that was my objective, and that was my thinking. Because I did wonder why I did actually. Because I mean, as women go, my husband will attest to the fact that I'm not a pushover by any means. I won't say anymore, but yeah, I'm pretty strong. So I didn't want to just kind of get into that so directly. I wanted it to be implied. And I also wanted, I don't want to give anything away, but what Simran did, I think took courage beyond what a lot of people understand, because people were upset with me and said,
Yes, even I was.
yeah, people were upset with me.
Maybe you should come up with a sequel or something.
Yeah, the third one is that the book title is Simran.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when you read the book, you'll understand more about this conversation. So, an affair, tattoo artist, and daughter's revenge. These are some of your published short stories. So, would you like to talk about that?
So I've written quite a few and short stories. I think a couple more have been published, haven't been mentioned. But I think the writing a short story is very difficult. I think writing a short story is more difficult than writing a novel. But I think what writing short stories does is it helps you quickly, in that number of pages or words, quickly establish a plot. It's good practice for writing a novel. And so, I like surprises. I like twists. So to practice twists, and if you read, the short stories, the tattoo artist has an incredible. They all have this.
Even your lady's
Yes.
turns into a thriller.
Yes. That was the intention. But yeah, so I like to have this, but then to stretch it out across a novel, you should practice. In a short story, it makes it. I wouldn't say easier, because I don't think it's easy, but I think it kind of gives you this it teaches you how to within a few pages kind of keep the reader's interest. Whereas in a novel, I mean, there's a lot more description and there's a lot more storytelling, but if you don't have the twist coming, you won't be able to hold the attention. Right. So I look at my short stories as really practice.
So reading is essential for writing, basically. That is what I feel.
Yes.
Are you a voracious reader, and who is your favorite Indian author?
Anuradha Roy is my favorite Indian author, and Amitav Ghosh. So Anuradha Roy for her prose, and the way she writes the stories. Amitav Ghosh is for the historical element, because the next book that I written is very historical, and he's like my inspiration. So I would say that they're my two go-to. I read their books as soon as they come out.
And you read every day. What are you reading currently?
I am reading this Japanese author. I'm reading you asked me, I can't remember names and I can't remember things, but yeah, I'm reading. So I'm in 3 book clubs.
Pune?
I'm in 2 book clubs in Pune and 1 in Goa, because we also live in Goa part-time. So it's important to be around readers for me. So I can't find, I don't feel the need to be around writers for some reason.
young readers.
But I like to be around readers. Yeah.
Okay. So, I read your tweet a couple of days back, which mentioned your coming to Meerut and the fact that 1857 mutiny would be an important event in your next book. So, maybe you'd like to tell us more about it, and where we sit right now is just 2 kilometers away from where the mutiny 1857
started. Yeah. So, as I was we were discussing just a little while ago, when I was writing Lady Sailor, I did a fair amount of research about, the association of basically, where the Sikhs fit into the landscape in terms of the independence movement and partition and so on. So I went back a little bit, and one thing that came out was that Sikhs were actually considered traitors because they fought alongside the British in the mutiny. And so I wanted to explore that. I wanted to understand that, why that happened. People have explored it. There's a guy at the University of Vancouver many years ago. He wrote a paper on his thoughts, but it didn't quite do it for me. So I went back. So my next book is actually it kind of tracks the association between the Sikhs and the British from the mid-1800s all the way to 1990, Geneva. So it kind of ends just before, I don't know the rest of you all about, it ends just before that. And the mutiny is part of it because there were many other times that the Sikhs fought alongside the British. But the mutiny was one of them, and it was a major one. So I focus on Lucknow actually, I don't focus on Meerut because I also, as I was mentioning, I do focus on some major British, a few British people, but specifically John and Henry Lawrence, because I went to Sana. Henry Lawrence founded Sana. And Henry Lawrence and John Lawrence were basically the administrators of the job. And so I dug into, and at the time of the mutiny, Henry Lawrence was the resident of Lucknow. So that's where that whole story is coming together, and that's why I said that yes, Meerut is where it started, and my 14th Sikh regiment was posted in Meerut. I don't know if it was me, but it started here, word got out, and so this is where it began.
So that is yours. Sorry. No. Is this going to be from an Englishman's point of view or an Indian's point of view?
It's from an Indian's point of view.
Then we can't call it mutiny. Then we can't call it mutiny.
No, that's a very good question because, we can stick to a script. But, because, the switch to the First War of Independence is recent. My story ends in 1918. At that time, it was still new.
No, the reason I'm asking is that if it's an Englishman's point of view, if you're talking about, the Lawrences and all these people, then the storyline is very different. But if it is
But it's a Sikh. It's a Sikh soldier's point of view.
the Sikh soldier is addressing it as a mutiny, but
Yes.
Hindus are not.
Yes.
So
The Sikhs are addressing it as a mutiny, and my character, my protagonist, my main guy is a Sikh, and he's fighting with the British.
So that is your second book,
Yes.
and it is called?
No.
So, is there a third book as well you're working on? Do you work on projects simultaneously, or is it one slot at a time?
No, I finished the second one, and I've sent it to people. Sent it to my agent.
Agent or friends who are Vertically, please.
So I've gone past that. Yeah, gone to the next stage.
Next
Yeah. And yeah, I am working on the third one. And yeah, and the third one again. See, this is. I want to explore things that have raised questions in my mind. And so the third one is going to have a little bit of Blue Star, Operation Blue Star, and again because I was in 11th grade at the time, or 12th grade at the time, so old enough to know what was going on, but removed because we were enough from what was really happening. So didn't really understand, and so I wanted to do that, but it's a good story.
Again, we take Simran forward.
Yes. Yeah,
So
it's
something
excellent.
to look forward to.
Yeah, yeah.
So has writing changed you as a person?
Tremendously, tremendously. And I was mentioning to you guys earlier, I don't know if this is the trend or if these are things that I'm drawn to, but I'm reading about soul living. Slowing down and actually, like looking around you and seeing what's happening rather than racing through life. There was a really nice one in the Economic Times, a speaking tree thing a few days ago.
Somebody reads Speaking Tree?
I do. I glanced at it. But this one was very interesting because it talked about slowing down your relationships. And you don't want, it's like the slower you build your friendship, the more interesting it is. And you want it to be, you want to be united but not having burst into flames and blow up in your face. So you don't want to say too much, but you want to kind of. So there was one about relations. So I noticed things that I had never noticed before. Is the answer to your question. As a writer, I noticed things about people, and I could pick up with there. That's going to go somewhere. No, it's things you notice things a lot more than you otherwise do. Otherwise, you're just looking to see if she read that at the last party. Yeah, but now I look at things differently and I read differently, and I think I have a much more open mind to everything. So I want to write about LGBTQ characters. I want to understand. It becomes it's like you don't. There's so little we know, I think, but I want to know.
What would your advice be to young writers who are just starting to write or maybe looking to publish? So what is the process like, and would you recommend that somebody here gives up their corporate career and jump into following your passion?
Can it put food on the table and move on the head?
20 years of corporate career, I think.
We're not talking about the savings. We're not talking about the savings. Can you make money?
Not at all.
Okay, so does writing have money in it?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know, like, I would say that, Chetan Bhagat makes money, longs of it. Amrish Tripathi probably makes a fair amount, but you could literally count on one hand and half a foot the number of authors who make money at it. And this is not just in India. In India, of course, it's like absolutely horrible. But in the US,
I noticed HarperCollins, that is where you published, would have, I mean, it's a good publishing house to go to.
it's a great publishing house to go to, but I think there are a couple of things. One is that Indians don't read fiction. They want to self-help. That's my other big pet peeve, and I wrote something about that. So it's just not just non-fiction, it's self-help is the highest selling book genre in India. So if you want to make money, you have to write a self-help.
No, he reads self-help, that's what.
But you know, I just read somebody again, this is, I read critically because, it's interesting. But somebody just wrote, I think it was in the newspaper, in Indian Express, wrote this thing about self-help books and fiction and so on. And talked about Jay Shetty. And every time I've seen that guy come across my, horizon, I've always said, you're a creep for some reason. I did not know anything about him. And then I read this. It's a scam. He's a total scam. He's made up everything about 3 years as a monk, living as a monk. It's all fake.
He's given a fake degree.
And he's giving a degree which he's saying you can go and finish up in these universities.
Yeah.
And those universities are saying never for
No, he's done. It's shown that he's done this degree, which is not like
that too. But he's offering a course in self-help, like helping other people. It's a 6-month program that you can attach. These claims you can attach to certain universities. Anyway, that's a whole other. But you can make money, and so if you write self-help books, if you're writing fiction of a certain level of not raciness, you will probably make money if you're writing at a certain level. I shouldn't do the double negative. If you are writing at a certain level of raciness, it's likely to
So, this is my last question to you. And since you spoke so openly about your mother, I recently lost a very dear friend to depression. I would like you to talk a little more about mental health and what have you learned with your journey, if you could get a message out there.
So I see, it's very interesting. So I ran away from it for years. I always noticed or felt that my father was looking at me anytime, I threw a tantrum or, like just a very normal kind of a behavior. I'm wondering if he's looking at me thinking I'm like her. And then when my kids were born, it is, it's something that's always there at the back of your mind. And how are you going to deal with a situation if it comes up, right? If your child has an issue. And I think what I've come away with is there is so little understanding. That's the reason why, if today I ask my father what was wrong with my mother, he's like, I don't know, they wanted schizophrenia, but I don't know. After all these years and everything that has happened, I think there is a massive need for understanding. I worked for a year with a suicide hotline. I really tried a suicide hotline. And it was set up by a lady who lost her son-in-law. And she set it up about 17, 18 years ago, and I was very closely with her. There is an incredible, I think, need for us to understand, and unfortunately, I think what you're asking me for, I probably can't give you because I'm still far away from it. Because I really don't know if it came to my doorstep how I would do it, even today.
But you did.
No, I ran away. It was in my house and I owned it. So how, and I think this is something, that I want to learn from Jerry, for instance, and others who are are dealing with, have dealt with, I think we're still dealing with it. After his losing his mother many, many years ago. But I think that this is not something that we hide. We hide anything. We don't understand anything. We don't address the issue. We always say it's nothing. There is. I've had many conversations with people about catacombs. I've told them what it's like. I've told them, what kind of services they offer, how they affiliate with the imams. The imams psychiatrists come and, consult the patients at the so. But I just think that there is so little. We've supported an organization called the Banyan in Chennai for many years, who also support mental health. But I just think that the understanding for me, after having been through it, is so limited. But I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said, if it's at my doorstep, will I run or will I race it? I don't know. Honestly.
Thank you so much. I'm going to leave the house to the audience. If you have any questions, please come forward. Anybody?
So they say that a woman is sort of a mother. So since you had almost a very tricky situation in your mom, so which sort of now what do you think? How does it carry forward? Because I don't know the gender of the kids or like so somebody does it like as the trauma reflects in the way to deal with them or
It's a very interesting question because my sister's here and she's a leader right now, she's teaching in New York. And we were both, she also had a daughter and a son. And we were talking about the fact that we were not married. And so I think to some extent we are overcompensating. And to some extent it is, we're doing everything that we're trying to parent ourselves again. Because it is like, how do you distance yourself and yet embrace the fact that, she was our mother and we learned a lot from her. So we try to sort of reconnect and see what we actually have become because of her. She was a very creative person. And she a lot of actually bipolar people are very creative. And she got us a meeting. But we have to force ourselves to kind of go back and reconnect. Because we were away from that whole maternal thing for so long.
And I think in today's world, like pandemic, it's as it is not easy to be parents, especially children. Because I think those girls have a mind like I have an 8-year-old who already has been set, like it's 8-year-old sort of sway or so we're not eating. And then sort of sometimes I don't know my mother gets completely scared. Don't be scared of your own daughter. But I think it's a different situation with the girls born nowadays. Because I think the way we are, if we are somewhat scared of seeing a little bit of our various selves in them. So
yeah, I encourage that. I'm like, by the way, I don't know how it happened, but I have a very good, my daughter's 21. And I have a really, really nice relationship with her. And I think somewhere along the way, I think I probably did exactly without a mother advising me. I didn't let her push me around. Because you tend to do that. They do go through their rebellious phase. But see, I didn't have a chance to be rebellious with anybody. So I just kind of expected that she would do either. And she didn't really do that. A little bit. sometimes she said, you don't do anything, they say, I want to just, this is another favorite thing or not, that he just weights, ladies, everyone. Weightlifting is very, very, very important.
Strength training.
Strength training, yes, strength training.
There's something about mental illness, because when somebody has anxiety and depression, there's a very thin line being mentally ill and just having a normal anxiety and depression. So I somehow feel we are not able to address that thin line, and it always goes unnoticed also. So sometimes a lot of anxiety and depression goes unnoticed because we feel very good for it.
And my son is a very sensitive child, and he lives in America. And he's been there now for his grad school. He's been working for 3 years, so it's been a while. And before that, he was here in India since he was 7, and since he finished school. So, but there is this all-pervasive thing about anxiety. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling triggered. I'm
Overwhelmed,
stressed. There's a lot of that happening, and my husband brushes it off.
That's what I'm saying, that because you really don't know if you felt it or should you consider it seriously.
Right, but see, I think you have to listen. I think that's my
Somehow I feel when you listen, because I have friends who are doing these things, so then you mark them up as mental illness, you give them a name, like a bipolar, or whatever it is. So then you give them and then you kind of history with that, they are like this. So if there are chances for them to be taken as a regular person,
yeah.
they lose on that. Like if your mother was there, maybe she was not so intensive.
Yeah.
And some doctor just wrote on a prescription that she's bipolar.
Yeah.
That's all she's written on.
Yeah, but I don't think, I don't think that is what the situation is today. Today is like, people, at least, in my household, my husband is like, get a grip, get on with it. What are you complaining about? You have everything. You have nothing to complain about.
Children don't want to listen to this.
They don't. You have to hear them out. When he's saying, I'm anxious about something, you have to listen to understand where he's coming from and not just say, what do you have to be anxious about?
Yeah, you have to be a good listener.
You have to be a good listener.
You have to be a good listener.
Yes.
Listen him out.
Yes. Yeah.
And then use this.
Yeah.
Because they
I think they come up with solutions themselves. If you let them talk. You just don't say
just leave the sounding board. That's one
Yeah, exactly. Because my husband will immediately stand up and say, what is this nonsense? I don't want to hear this. What do you have to complain about? What have you got to do? It's not about that. It's not about that at all. I think that triggers are so
very small.
it can be something very He said
that's small, but we are thinking it's very small at that time, at that point in time.
No, he called me the other day and he said, Mommy, I'm feeling really anxious. And I said, okay, he's 26. Okay? So I said, what happened? He said, I placed a watch with this guy. And I think, I'm pretty sure that he's dating someone I have already dated. Okay, so I said, so what's to be anxious about? So he said, we broke up. And now this girl is dating him. So I don't know what she's going to say about me. Okay? And it's causing anxiety. Right? It's causing anxiety. And if he doesn't talk about this stuff to my husband, because my husband will say, what's wrong with you? Why are you there? You have to listen to him. And you have to understand where he's coming from. And you have to just say, it's okay. You please watch with the guy. Don't worry about
It's complaining that you have about me.
Yes, exactly. That's what I don't talk. He talks to me about all of these things and then he said, Mom, I'm anxious about something. Even I cringe. Honestly. Oh shit!
Because we have no daughters. I know it's for once in 2 days.
So I said, okay, please, what do you anxious about? You have to
Any more questions?
So thank you for sharing deep dark secrets. Well-informed authors like yourself and being from the opposite, the real outnumbered here. Just like to put it that, maybe it's time that we stop beating up children with a stick. Maybe it's time that we talk about equality of genders rather than, just this female-led thing and the macho thing. Maybe people like you who are in literary pursuits and who are authors, who have a mass view and readership. Maybe it's time that we start talking about gender equality in true sense of the word.
I think you have to read my book.
Okay.
I think you have to read my book because I think I have a very balanced, because I do start my day with.
I saw her reading this mock technical writing end to end.
I started to off, and then, I started to off as a little boorish and kind of a nationalist, but I started to go.
We are all being sorted out. Every relationship is being sorted out, especially the names.
She's saying
They are outnumbered.
She said she'll make sure that we read it. That's
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that honestly, and I could not do this.
It's only the middle class that's talking about this. The upper crust and the lower crust, they're already liberated.
They are equal.
They're equal. Everything. Everybody just beating around this, female lifting and doing this thing. I mean, it's high time we start talking about gender equality rather than,
Absolutely.
in true sense of the word.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if it weren't my husband supporting me and wholeheartedly supporting me. And yet we are equal in that he doesn't say, Khana kya bana hai, khana rao and ye go on like what is yourself. So there is absolute, my work pays me nothing. He is paying all the bills, but there is absolute equality between the two of us when it comes to, everything. He has his
Please spread the message to your.
I would, absolutely. Sorry. Yes. It is a very system. Yeah. Can't function otherwise. Yeah.
So my son wanted me to give you a message. Hey, Rai Durustai, you gave up your corporate job. That is what he wanted to say. And we are happy you did that because we get beautiful work like Ladies Taylor. Hope you bring out many more and best wishes.
Thank you.
For beautifully navigating the talk. I thank our distinguished associate Court of Crystal Palace. Today's event was in association with media partner Dainik Jagran and the undying support of SR Women of Life. Lastly, thank you for being a great audience, for participating, engaging, and for being here. You constantly encourage us to do more events like this. Prabhakaran Foundation promotes cross-strait cultural understanding and appreciation and promote local artisans and their artifacts to show appreciation to our patrons and guests by endorsing their products. We encourage all to buy local products from local craftsmen for sustainability and development. In all our events, local food is served, which means spreading awareness about locally grown produce in this city and the community. In this contest, today we are pleased to felicitate with the ethnic store of Kalpa, Ontario. I would like to request Mrs. Anju Prakash to felicitate Priya Hajela.